Imagine waking up one morning and finding yourself accused of terrible crimes, crimes you know, deep in your soul, you didn't commit. Imagine checking your bank balance, seeing zero, or worse, deep in the negative, your life savings, vanished. Imagine realizing the people closest to you, the ones smiling, bringing you tea, asking about your day, were the architects of your ruin, methodically, deliberately poisoning your mind, and yes, I mean literally. It sounds like the plot of a dark psychological thriller, doesn't it? Something you'd watch, gripping the edge of your seat, thankful it's not real. But this story, this one is real, this happened. I'm Victoria, welcome to the channel. Here, we delve into the stories that don't let you go easily, the ones that echo in the quiet moments, maybe make you double-check the locks, or maybe, just maybe, show you the incredible resilience hidden inside ordinary people, the strength that emerges when everything is taken away. Today's story, it's a heavy one, prepare yourself. It was shared with me by a woman, a remarkable woman, we'll call her Agnes. That's not her real name, of course, privacy matters. Agnes is, well, she's something else. You'd meet her, see her tending her garden, her prized orchids. You'd think, quiet, gentle, maybe even a little fragile, someone who keeps to herself, meticulous, precise. But beneath that calm surface, there's a core of pure, unyielding steel, forged in betrayal, tempered by fire. She needed her story told, the whole truth, unfiltered, raw. She needed someone to bear witness. And she needs you, right now, listening, to understand how she clawed her way back, how she reclaimed not just what was stolen, but her very self, and how she delivered a reckoning that was, truly, unforgettable. What was done to her, it wasn't just theft, it wasn't just deceit, it was monstrous, a calculated, systematic dismantling of a life by her own family, her nephew, the boy she'd helped raise, and his ambitious partner. You need to hear this. You need to hear how Agnes, the quiet woman with the delicate flowers, unleashed a hurricane. So stay right here. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell, because the twists and turns in this journey, they are truly unbelievable. You won't want to miss what's coming. Okay, deep breath, I'm going to step aside now. Let Agnes tell you her story, in her own voice. She insisted on it, said the fury, the strength, it had to be heard directly, not paraphrased. Here is Agnes. Family, I always put my faith in family. Perhaps that was my great vulnerability, my Achilles heel. My late husband, Richard, bless his pragmatic soul, he used to gently tease me about it. Aggie, he'd say, adjusting his spectacles, you find the good in a stone gargle. He saw the world through the lens of physics, probabilities, observable facts, cold equations. He loved me for my difference, but he worried too. I was different. Yes, my professional life, before retirement, seems like another lifetime now. I worked in cryptography, not the spy kind, mostly corporate, securing data, finding flaws in systems, breaking codes, analyzing patterns, seeing the hidden structures beneath the surface, the messages people didn't intend to send. You might think that would make a person inherently suspicious, cynical even, always looking for the hidden angle, the deception, but mostly, I applied that analytical mind to puzzles, to understanding complex systems, to my garden, not to the people I held dear, especially not to Marcus. My nephew, Marcus, my sister's only child, we lost her so young, cancer, swift and cruel. I stepped in, did my best, tried to fill a void that could never truly be filled. Richard and I, we never had children of our own, so Marcus, he became like a son, in many ways. He was always searching, restless energy, chasing the next big thing, the quick buck, never quite landing on solid ground, failed businesses, borrowed money, promises evaporating like morning mist. But oh, he had charm, a dazzling smile, a way of making you feel like the most important person in the room, enough to make you forgive the forgotten loan, the missed calls, the pattern of letting people down. Then Chloe arrived in his life. His girlfriend, soon fiancée. She was sharp, undeniably intelligent, ambitious. Her eyes, they didn't just see you, they seemed to assess, calculate, evaluate. I felt a prickle of unease right from the start, told myself I was being uncharitable, judgmental, perhaps jealous of his attention. She seemed utterly devoted to Marcus, championed his ideas, smoothed his ruffled feathers, presented a united, polished front. They started visiting more frequently, especially after Richard passed away. The house felt so empty then, the silence deafening. Their visits, initially, felt like a lifeline. They'd bring groceries, fuss over me. Chloe would offer to tidy up. Marcus would tackle tasks in the garden, asking questions, seemingly interested in my orchids. My orchids, my quiet passion, my solace, my connection to order, beauty, patience, intricate systems, each bloom a small testament to persistence, requiring precise care, specific conditions, unwavering attention. They represent decades of dedication. Some are quite rare, valuable even, but their true value to me is immeasurable. Marcus and Chloe, they feigned interest remarkably well, asking about the propagation techniques, the specific needs of the rarer hybrids, the potential market value. Looking back, the questions seem obvious, blatant even, but at the time, I interpreted it as them finally maturing, developing sophisticated interests, settling down. Hope is a powerful filter. Soon the conversation shifted, subtly at first, to my finances. They expressed concern, delicately, worried about me being alone, handling everything, investments, bills, the estate. It must be overwhelming, Aunt Agnes, Marcus would say, his brow furrowed with mock concern. Chloe would nod, her expression full of sympathy. You shouldn't have to burden yourself with all that paperwork. Marcus suggested, tentatively, that he could help, set up online banking for me, manage the bill payments, consolidate things. Make life easier for you, Auntie, he'd smiled. That charming, disarming smile. Chloe added, her voice soft. It's the least we can do, we worry about you. I hesitated, a flicker, deep within. My old pattern-seeking mind registered a discordant note, a tiny alarm bell, barely audible, muffled by grief and loneliness. Why the sudden focus on my asterisk money? But they were family, my only remaining close family. They were offering help, companionship, relief from the crushing weight of solitude. I dismissed the warning, pushed the unease away, chose to trust. I gave Marcus access, limited at first, just to handle utility payments, monitor the portfolio Richard had meticulously built. He seemed so efficient, presented spreadsheets, reported small gains, expressed gratitude for my trust, making me feel slightly guilty for my earlier hesitation. Chloe, she became a regular fixture, bringing over homemade meals, casseroles, soups, always something warm, comforting. She'd sit with me for hours, chatting, steering the conversation towards my health, my well-being. Are you feeling all right, Agnes? She'd ask, her head tilted, eyes full of concern. You seem a bit tired lately, a little, forgetful perhaps. Are you remembering to take your vitamins? It happens to us all as we get older. A little memory fuzz, she'd say gently, patting my hand. Maybe we should have a chat with Dr. Evans, see if there's something to help with. Clarity. I resisted the doctor's suggestion. Mostly, my mind, despite the grief, despite the isolation, felt essentially sound, sharp even, but I couldn't deny there were moments, increasing moments, of fogginess, like wadding through mental cotton wool, misplacing my keys, forgetting a neighbour's appointment for tea, finding words just out of reach. I attributed it to age, stress, the lingering effects of grief, the isolation. It never once crossed my mind. Not even as a fleeting nightmare, that this cognitive drift wasn't natural, that it was being induced, deliberately, chemically. Then came Brenda, the part-time caregiver, just for a few hours a week. Agnes, Chloe had insisted, to help with errands, medication reminders, give you peace of mind. She was recommended, supposedly, by Chloe's distant cousin, a nurse. Brenda was unobtrusive, quiet, efficient, bordering on invisible. She took over managing my prescriptions, laying out the pills for me each morning, each evening, in those little plastic organizers. Days of the week clearly marked. She'd bring me a glass of water, watch discreetly to ensure I took them. Her presence was meant to be reassuring, helpful. Around the time Brenda started, things definitely began to worsen, noticeably. The fogginess became denser, more persistent. There were entire afternoons that felt hazy, dreamlike. Following complex conversations became a struggle. I'd lose the thread, feel embarrassed, my balance seemed off, I felt unsteady on my feet, stumbled once or twice on the garden path. Simple tasks like organizing my seed catalogue or following a recipe suddenly felt overwhelmingly complex. Marcus and Chloe were a constant presence, their concern escalating in tandem with my decline. Sympathetic murmurs, worried glances exchanged over my head. They started handling more and more, seamlessly, intercepting my mail, just to filter out the junk, auntie, protect you from scams, managing all financial correspondence, shifting everything to paperless, online, under their control. My signature started appearing on documents. Complex legal forms I barely recall reading, let alone understanding, power of attorney, healthcare directives, updated will provisions. Chloe would explain them, patiently, slowly, using simple words, as if speaking to a child or someone significantly impaired. Just standard paperwork, Agnes, she'd soothe. Formalities makes things simpler down the line, if anything should happen, precautionary. Her explanations felt slippery, evasive. Yet I couldn't quite grasp why. I felt trapped, moving in slow motion, observing my own life through a distorted lens. My mind, my sharpest asset, my defining characteristic, felt like it was betraying me, wadding through thick, heavy mud, and the money, the bank statements, investment reports, they completely stopped arriving, by mail or email. Marcus reassured me. It's all digital now, Aunt Agnes, much more secure, easier for me to track everything for you. He'd occasionally show me complex spreadsheets on his tablet, charts with upward trends, reassuring numbers. Everything's looking great, he'd declare confidently. Your portfolio is performing beautifully. Richard would be proud, but a persistent, gnawing unease remained, a deep sense of dissonance, like hearing a familiar piece of music played subtly out of tune. Everything almost right, but fundamentally wrong. Then the first real crack appeared in their carefully constructed facade. A letter, somehow slipping through their mail filtering, addressed directly to me from a high-end car dealership's collection agency, demanding payment for overdue lease installments on a luxury sports car, a flashy, obscenely expensive vehicle, leased, in my name, a car I had never seen, would never desire, couldn't even comfortably get into. I confronted Marcus, the letter trembling in my hand, my voice tight with disbelief and rising anger. He feigned astonishment, then deep concern, his expression shifting rapidly. Identity theft, he declared, his voice filled with solemn gravity, striking his forehead lightly. It's absolutely rampant these days, Aunt Elena. Criminals are getting so sophisticated, especially targeting seniors. It's disgusting. He took the letter from me, his demeanor instantly shifting to protective nephew mode. Don't you worry about a thing, I'll handle this immediately. I'll get it sorted out, we'll report it. He made a show of making calls right there, tapping furiously on his laptop, showing me drafted emails to the dealership, to credit agencies. He seemed so competent, so outraged on my behalf, so protective. For a moment, I almost believed him. But the identity theft incidents didn't stop. They escalated. Credit cards, multiple cards, opened in my name, often using online portals I'd never visited, maxed out within days, purchases at designer boutiques, expensive electronics, untraceable gift cards, online loan applications, payday advance services, small amounts at first, then larger, all linked to accounts I supposedly controlled. Each time a new issue surfaced, Marcus had a ready explanation, a rehearsed response. These hackers are incredibly persistent, auntie. They must have gotten your details from that old data breach. They're using dark web techniques, almost impossible to trace. He claimed he reported everything to the police, filed fraud reports with the banks, showed me confirmation numbers, incident reports, which I later learned were fabricated. He even had the audacity to gently suggest that perhaps, just perhaps, I had done these things during a moment of confusion. "It's okay, Aunt Agnes," he'd say, his voice soft, soothing, patronizing. "Memory can play tricks, especially when you're not feeling yourself. The important thing is, we'll fix it, I'll take care of everything." The insidious seed of doubt that they had so carefully planted began to sprout. Was it possible? Could I be losing my mind? Could I actually be doing these things, applying for loans, buying things, and then completely forgetting? The thought was terrifying, more terrifying than the financial loss. Chloe and Brenda were always there, a silent chorus of agreement, nodding with concern, sharing worried glances. "Your memory, it's not quite what it used to be, Agnes." Chloe would sigh, patting my arm. "It's perfectly understandable, but we need to be realistic. We're here for you, we'll manage things." Their control tightened, like a boa constrictor, slowly, inexorably, screening all my phone calls, claiming they were protecting me from aggressive telemarketers and scammers, reading my incoming mail, sorting it, only giving me what they deemed safe or unimportant. My world shrank dramatically, confined mostly to the house, the garden, my familiar routines becoming chores. Even tending my beloved orchids felt increasingly difficult. My hands trembled sometimes, making delicate work impossible. My focus drifted. I'd forget watering schedules, mislabel plants. It felt like I was fadding, becoming a ghost in my own life. One quiet afternoon, searching for a specific pair of long-handled pruning shears, I ventured into the back of the garage, a place I rarely went, filled with Richard's old tools, boxes of papers, remnants of his projects. I opened an old metal filing cabinet, crammed with forgotten warranties, appliance manuals, dusty folders, stuff untouched for years, since before he passed. Behind a thick stack of old tax returns, yellowed and brittle, my fingers brushed against something hard, smooth, a small, locked metal box, gunmetal grey, utilitarian, Richard's box. He'd occasionally referred to it, cryptically, as his just-in-case box. Insurance. He'd winked. I still had the key, always, on an old silver chain I wore around my neck, tucked beneath my blouse, a keepsake, its purpose forgotten until that very moment. My heart beat a little faster, a sense of anticipation, foreboding. I carried the box back to my study, the one room they rarely bothered with, deeming it full of old lady clutter, locked the door, something I hadn't done in years, found the key on its chain. The metal cool against my skin, the lock clicked open easily. Inside wasn't much at first glance, a few faded photographs, Richard in his university days, us on our wedding day. His father's service medal from the war, tarnished and heavy, and tucked beneath, a small, rather cheap-looking digital voice recorder, the kind journalists used maybe 15, 20 years ago, basic, functional. Beside it, a single folded sheet of paper, Richard's familiar, precise handwriting, instantly recognizable. "Aggie," it began, "my dearest Aggie, if you're reading this, things have likely gone truly sideways. Trust this little gadget. Listen first. Always trust your instincts." Ah. I hadn't known he owned this. Had he anticipated something, or was it just his cautious nature? My hands trembled slightly as I plugged it into my old computer to charge, waited impatiently. Finally, I put on a pair of old headphones, pressed the play button, and heard his voice, Richard's voice, clear, familiar, achingly missed, recorded. He stated the date, shortly before his final admission to the hospital, when he knew time was short. He spoke of his love for me, his regrets, his deep worry about leaving me alone, and then his tone shifted, became serious, troubled. He recounted overhearing a phone conversation, Marcus talking to someone, bragging, laughing about how the old lady's sitting on a gold mine, how managing her assets would be child's play once Richard was gone, how she was too trusting for her own good. Richard hadn't confronted him. His health was failing rapidly. He didn't want to cause me distress, didn't have the strength for a fight, but he documented it, this recording. His just in case, he ended the recording with a message directly to me, his voice thick with emotion, but firm. Aggie, Ellie girl, trust your gut, your mind, your brilliant mind. It's sharper than anyone realizes. Don't ever let them diminish you. Don't let them make you doubt yourself. Fight back. Hearing his voice, his specific warning, his faith in me, reaching out from beyond the silence, it was like being doused with a bucket of glacial water, a shock that jolted me awake, truly awake for the first time in months. The suffocating fog didn't evaporate instantly, but it began to recede, dramatically. My mind, the cryptographer's mind, the pattern seeker, the code breaker, snapped back online, booted up, sharp, analytical, cold. Pattern recognition, activated, the increasing fogginess, correlating perfectly with Brenda's arrival and her meticulous medication management, the escalating financial chaos, starting almost immediately after Marcus gained access, Chloe's constant, insidious suggestions of my incompetence, my failing memory, the isolation, the control, the intercepted mail. It wasn't random, it wasn't age, it wasn't stress, it certainly wasn't sophisticated hackers. It was them. Marcus, Chloe, Brenda, all of it, a coordinated attack. The realization didn't trigger panic, or tears, or fear. It ignited cold, clear, diamond-hard rage, a fury so profound, so absolute, it burned away the lingering confusion, the self-doubt, the helplessness. Like acid, they hadn't just stolen my money, my security, they were systematically stealing my mind, my memories, my identity, my autonomy, my very essence. They were trying to erase me, while I was still alive, breathing, tending my flowers. Making me a non-person, a vessel to be drained and discarded. That night I became an actress, played the part they expected, perhaps even better than before, nodded vaguely, seemed more confused, more frail, when Chloe explained, yet again, why the main investment portal required *her login now. Enhanced security protocols, Agnes, too complex for you to navigate alone, smiled weakly, took the glass of water from Brenda, accepted the little cup of evening pills. But as soon as Brenda left my room, her footsteps receding down the hall, I spat the pills out, palmed them quickly, wrapped them in a tissue, hid them, deep inside a decorative porcelain vase on my dresser, started doing that every single time, morning, evening, midday if she offered something extra, hiding the pills Brenda dispensed, meticulously, secretly, taking only the medications I knew were correct. The ones prescribed by my trusted GP months earlier, before they had seized control, prescriptions I'd managed to refill discreetly on my own during a rare, unsupervised outing to the local pharmacy, claiming I'd lost the ones Brenda had. Slowly, painstakingly slowly, over days, then weeks, the chemical fog began to lift, dissipate. My mind cleared, like sun burning through morning mist. The tremor in my hands lessened, then vanished. My thoughts became sharp again, focused, precise, and lethally angry. They saw me as a doddering old fool, lost amongst her petals, slipping gently into dementia. They had absolutely no idea who they were truly dealing with. They had poked and prodded. And finally awakened a sleeping dragon, and I was going to burn their meticulously constructed world to the ground. The first priority, information, cold, hard, undeniable proof, evidence that would stand up in court, evidence that would expose them utterly. My background, cryptography, systems analysis, it wasn't just about codes and algorithms, it was about understanding secure systems, digital trails, data recovery, hidden information pathways, metadata. Marcus thought he was being clever, using shell corporations, routing money through complex offshore accounts, employing sophisticated software to cover his tracks. He wasn't clever, he was arrogant, sloppy, blinded by greed and his own perceived brilliance. His fatal flaw, he fundamentally underestimated me, saw the frail old lady, not the analyst. I had an old laptop, stored in a cupboard, one they hadn't bothered with, probably thought it was defunct, useless. Crucially, it wasn't connected to my home Wi-Fi network, the one I now knew they were monitoring, tracking my activity, late at night, long after Marcus and Chloe had departed. after Brenda was gone, when the house was silent, I used a neighbor's unsecured Wi-Fi signal, weak, intermittent but usable, bouncing it through anonymizing relays. Covering my digital tracks, my fingers, stiff at first, then surprisingly nimble, remembered the old commands, the techniques, the pathways, navigating the less illuminated corners of the internet, accessing encrypted archives, using tools and methods I hadn't employed in decades, but which, like riding a bicycle, were never truly forgotten. It took weeks, long nights fueled by cold fury and black coffee, painstaking, meticulous work, tracing the digital breadcrumbs, the money transfers, the IP address logs. He'd stolen my identity wholesale, my social security number, my date of birth, my mother's maiden name, everything, used it to build a false digital persona. He hadn't just drained my savings and investment accounts, he had actively implicated me, weaving a web to ensnare me. Setting up those shell companies, in my name, linked to dubious online ventures, borderline pyramid schemes, high-risk investments, he was crafting a narrative, a plausible defense for himself, the confused, elderly aunt, dabbling incompetently in online schemes, easily defrauded by others, or perhaps, even a willing participant in her own financial ruin. It was diabolical, insidious, designed to destroy my credibility along with my finances. But he made mistakes, critical errors, born of arrogance. He used the same few devices, his laptop, Chloe's tablet, traceable by hardware IDs, MAC addresses. He accessed sensitive accounts from recognizable IP addresses, his home, his favorite coffee shop. He left metadata carelessly embedded in documents, timestamps that didn't align with his fabricated timelines, traces of deleted files recoverable with the right software. He thought clearing browser histories and using basic encryption was enough. Amateur, fool. I documented everything, meticulously, cross-referenced transaction times with Brenda's visits, with my own journal of induced fogginess, took screenshots, downloaded transaction logs, saved emails, archived everything, encrypted the entire dossier using multi-layer, robust encryption keys only I possessed, stored copies on multiple small, high-capacity thumb drives. Then, I hid them, leveraging my intimate knowledge of my home, my sanctuary, OneDrive. Sealed in a tiny moisture-proof capsule, hidden inside the hollowed-out stem of a large, dried Allium giganteum flower head in a decorative arrangement. Another, vacuum-sealed in plastic, placed inside a small waterproof box, buried beneath a specific, uniquely marked paving stone in the far corner of the greenhouse, under the potting bench. A third, I mailed, using a public mailbox several towns over, paid for with cash, to a secure post office box I had preemptively established months earlier, under a variation of my maiden name, anticipating, needing a safe harbour, just in case, Richard's warning echoing. Next, the medical sabotage, Brenda, the quiet instrument of their cruelty. She was the linchpin for the psychological torture, the induced incompetence. I needed undeniable proof of her actions, her complicity. Direct confrontation was out of the question, too risky. She'd alert Marcus and Chloe instantly. Observation, detailed analysis, patience, my old skills resurfaced. I maintained my hidden journal, rigorously, tracking my daily symptoms, level of clarity, presence or absence of fog, tremors, dizziness, nausea, headaches, correlating these entries precisely with Brenda's visit times, and whether I had secretly disposed of the pills she provided, or taken my own correct medication. The pattern was stark, undeniable, terrifyingly clear, within hours, sometimes less, of taking the pills Brenda dispensed. The cognitive fog descended like a shroud, the tremors returned, a wave of lethargy washed over me. On the days I managed to avoid her pills entirely, taking only my known prescriptions, clarity returned, strength flowed back, my mind felt like my own again. But a handwritten journal, however detailed, could be dismissed, subjective, the ramblings of a confused woman. I needed objective, hard evidence, irrefutable. Richard's old voice recorder wasn't suitable for visual surveillance, Too bulky, too obvious, but my greenhouse, my orchids, gave me an idea, nature observation tools. Using cash, withdrawn carefully in small amounts over weeks, I ordered several miniature, motion-activated wildlife cameras online, the kind used by birdwatchers or researchers, delivered, of course, to my secure P.O. box, collected during another carefully planned errand outing. These cameras were tiny, easily concealable, battery-powered, recorded high-definition video silently onto small memory cards. I hid one, meticulously camouflaged amongst the dense foliage of a large asparagus fern on the shelf near where Brenda routinely laid out my medications on the kitchen counter, its tiny lens peeking out. Another, I positioned inside a decorative tin on a high shelf in the bathroom, aimed directly at the medicine cabinet where my prescriptions were stored. It took several days, agonizing days of waiting, watching, maintaining my facade, playing the part of the increasingly frail, confused, dependent old woman, nodding vaguely, asking repetitive questions, sighing with fatigue, then, success, clear, undeniable footage, time-stamped, Brenda, glancing furtively over her shoulder, ensuring she was alone, quickly, efficiently, opening my prescribed medication bottles, tipping out the correct pills, replacing them with others taken from a small, unmarked plastic vial concealed in her uniform pocket. Her expression, captured in sharp detail, wasn't malicious, wasn't cruel, it was worse. It was, indifferent, bored even, just a task, a job she was paid to do, like polishing silver or dusting shelves. That utter lack of malice, that detached complicity in my slow destruction, somehow made it even more chilling, more monstrous. Proof, solid, damning proof, video evidence. Now understanding the full scope, the ultimate endgame, why such elaborate measures, why the medical sabotage, the framing, it wasn't just asterisk about the liquid assets, the easily accessible money. That was nearly gone already. It clicked into place, pieces of overheard conversations, stray remarks, Chloe's casual mention of property values in the area, Marcus's idle questions about the orchid market. My house, this property, situated in a desirable area. The land itself valuable, developers constantly sniffing around, and my orchids, my collection, painstakingly curated over 40 years, contained several extremely rare, unique specimens, hybrids I had personally cultivated, crossbred, some unregistered, potentially priceless to specialist collectors. They weren't just after my savings, my investments, they wanted asterisk everything. The house sold for development, maximized profit, the land cleared. The orchid collection, auctioned off, piece by valuable piece, and me, Agnes, the final obstacle, declared legally incompetent, thanks to their induced cognitive decline, placed in a secure, low-cost care facility, medicated into oblivion, forgotten, silenced permanently, or perhaps the medication errors, the dosages subtly increased over time, would eventually lead to a convenient, tragic accident, a fall, an overdose. Solving their problem definitively. The final catalyst, the moment the cold rage transformed into an absolute, unwavering resolve for total annihilation, wasn't a grand financial discovery or another legal document. It was small, petty, gratuitously cruel, an act of pure spite. I walked into the greenhouse one morning, the air usually filled with peace, with the scent of damp earth and blossoms, and saw it, my prize Paphioptilum hybrid. Lady Agnes, named in honour of my own mother. A complex cross I had spent 15 years perfecting, nurturing, its first bloom just beginning to unfurl, exquisite, rare, a deep velvet burgundy with intricate gold markings, had been deliberately snapped off at the base, the flower lying crushed, discarded on the flagstone floor, not accidentally knocked, not damaged by pests, deliberately vandalized, destroyed, and beside it, partially obscured but visible, a faint muddy impression. The distinctive tread pattern matching Marcus's ridiculously expensive Italian sneakers, the ones Chloe had proudly presented to him just weeks before, bragging about the cost. He hadn't just stolen my money, my health, my future, he was now actively, maliciously, destroying my past, my joy, my connection to beauty, my legacy, piece by irreplaceable piece. That single, violated bloom broke the final restraint within me. The cold, controlled rage solidified, hardened, into absolute unshakable certainty. They wouldn't just be stopped, arrested, prosecuted. They would be ruined, utterly, publicly, devastatingly, ruined. They needed to taste the powerlessness, the humiliation, the exposure they had planned for me. My plan began to form, not in anger, but in ice-cold calculation, legal action. Yes, that was essential, but it felt too slow, too sanitized, too impersonal, insufficient. They deserved more than just prison sentences and restitution orders. They deserved a public reckoning, a fall from grace so spectacular, it would be talked about for years. The annual Orchid Society Gala, the highlight of the horticultural social calendar, was just a few weeks away, held every year at the city's Grand Botanical Gardens Conservatory, a glittering affair, attended by serious collectors, society patrons, botanists, academics, local media, the city's elite. I was usually an active participant, sometimes a judge, well known, respected within that community. This year, everyone assumed I wouldn't attend. Given my widely rumoured decline, my frailty, Marcus and Chloe had even mentioned it, their voices dripping with false sympathy. "Oh, Aunt Agnes, the gala, it's probably far too much for you this year," Chloe had murmured, exchanging a knowing look with Marcus. "All that noise, the crowds, the standing, you should rest." Perfect, their assumptions, their arrogance provided the ideal stage. I needed an ally, a trusted professional, outside their insidious sphere of influence, immune to their charm. My lawyer, Arthur Pendleton, Richard's oldest friend, sharp as a tack, fiercely loyal, old-school integrity, utterly trustworthy. I contacted him, discreetly, using a cheap burner phone purchased with cash, arranging a meeting, not at his formal downtown office, too predictable, too easily observed, but at a bustling, noisy cafe. In a different part of the city, where we wouldn't be noticed, I laid out the core facts, the systematic financial theft, the forged documents, my suspicions about the medication, the gaslighting. I didn't reveal the full extent of my evidence cache yet, the videos, Brenda's potential cooperation, my gala plan, just enough to ignite his protective instincts, his professional outrage, to get the legal wheels turning, quietly, urgently, in the background. Freezing specific accounts Marcus hadn't yet completely drained, initiating forensic accounting, challenging the validity of the power of attorney based on my compromised state when it was signed. Arthur was horrified, visibly angered, his fist clenched on the table, ready for war. "Agnes," he'd said, his voice grim, "we'll nail them to the wall." Good, that's exactly what I needed. Now, for my part, the part Arthur couldn't orchestrate, the public demolition, the reckoning. I marshalled my recovered clarity, my returning physical energy, my burning righteous fury, and began to prepare, meticulously, like planning a complex military campaign. First, I contacted the Orchid Society organizers, using my burner phone, confirmed my attendance at the gala, responded to their surprise with calm assurance, mentioned I wished to make a brief, special presentation, a surprise announcement, honoring Richard's memory. Perhaps linked to a new orchid conservation fund. They were delighted, flattered, eagerly agreed, offering me a prime speaking slot, right after the main awards, when attention would be highest. Next, Brenda, the caregiver, the pawn, the weak link. I needed her confession, her sworn statement, her testimony, willingly given, if possible, coerced, if necessary, social engineering, my old analytical skills applied to human psychology, not just digital systems. I waited for an afternoon when I knew Marcus and Chloe were away, attending a supposed wealth management seminar, another layer of their deceit. Brenda arrived, punctual, quiet, efficient as always, her indifference a palpable shield. I initiated my performance, pretended to be having a particularly foggy day, confused, rambling, vulnerable, talked about Richard, how much I missed him, how lonely I felt, how much I relied on Marcus and Chloe, how grateful I was for Brenda's help. Then, I steered the conversation, gently, innocently, towards her employers. How kind Marcus and Chloe were to me, how deeply concerned. How much they valued Brenda's loyalty, her discretion, how they planned to take good care of her for being so reliable, keeping things stable. I watched her face, minutely, her eyes, her posture, the tiny muscle flickers, a shadow crossed her expression. Unease, guilt, fear. I pressed, subtly, amplifying the praise for her employers, mentioned, casually, how generous Marcus had been, hinting he'd promised her a significant bonus, a thank you payment. For her exceptional service and loyalty, I invented a specific sum, a large life-changing amount, plucked it from thin air. Her eyes widened, almost imperceptibly. Her breath hitched. Bingo, confirmation. She wasn't just passively complicit, she was being actively bribed, handsomely. Then I let the mask drop. Instantly, completely, my voice, suddenly clear, sharp, resonant, devoid of any trace of confusion or frailty, cutting through the air like glass. Brenda, she flinched, startled by the abrupt transformation, her head snapped up, eyes wide with shock, fear dawning. I know about the medication, Brenda. I stated it as fact. Cold, absolute. I know you've been swapping my pills, deliberately. I have proof. I let that hang in the air for a beat. Video proof, Brenda, clear footage of you, at the counter, at the medicine cabinet, swapping the pills, multiple occasions. Her face drained of all colour, chalk white. She started to stammer, denials forming on her lips, shaking her head mutely. I held up a hand, silencing her, my gaze unwavering, relentless. Don't bother denying it, it's pointless, it won't help you. Marcus and Chloe, they are using you, they are masters of manipulation. Do you honestly believe they will protect you when this inevitably collapses? Think, Brenda. They will throw you under the bus without a second thought, claim you acted alone, perhaps driven by malice, or even that you were stealing from me, manipulating my medication for your own reasons. They are drowning in serious felonies, fraud, conspiracy, elder abuse, identity theft, potentially much worse. The police, my lawyer, Arthur Pendleton, are already involved. Investigations are underway, forensics, financial trails. This was a slight exaggeration of the timeline, but effective. Her composure shattered completely. Tears welled, spilled, her body started to shake uncontrollably. Sobs escaped, ragged, fearful. They made me, she whispered, choked out. They told me, they said you were becoming difficult, agitated, needed something to calm your nerves, help you rest. They paid me extra, a lot extra, said it was harmless. Did they tell you what those pills were, Brenda? I asked, my voice dropping, becoming lethally quiet. Like ice, did they explain the side effects, the potential for long-term cognitive damage, memory loss, increased risk of falls, strokes? Did they tell you they were slowly, deliberately poisoning me? She sobbed harder, shaking her head violently. No, I didn't know, I swear I didn't know. I need your help, Brenda. I continued, my voice calm again, controlled, reasonable, offering a lifeline. You have exactly two choices right now. Option 1, continue protecting Marcus and Chloe, lie for them, obstruct justice, and go down with them, facing extremely serious criminal charges, conspiracy, elder abuse resulting in injury, possibly accessory charges related to the financial crimes, years in prison, Brenda. Option 2, I leaned forward slightly. You help me, you tell the truth, everything, you provide a full, detailed sworn statement. You agree to cooperate completely with my lawyer. With the police, testify if necessary. Do that, cooperate fully and honestly, and maybe, just maybe, Arthur can argue for mitigation, leniency, emphasize your cooperation, your remorse, perhaps argue you were coerced, manipulated yourself. Think very carefully, Brenda, your future, freedom, reputation, versus theirs. They feel nothing for you. They will sacrifice you in a heartbeat. She didn't need long to decide. Fear, raw primal fear, is a remarkably effective motivator, especially when coupled with a glimpse of self-preservation. She agreed, brokenly, but completely, and then, it all came pouring out, the initial instructions from Chloe, the gradual increase in dosage, the specific drugs they provided her, the cash payments. how they coached her on what to say if I seemed suspicious, how to manage my episodes of confusion. Reinforcing the narrative of my decline, I recorded her entire confession, with her explicit knowledge and consent this time, using Richard's little recorder, insurance. Then, I had her meticulously write out and sign a detailed statement, capturing every specific date, instruction, payment, fear. I checked it against my own journal, my video evidence, my financial timelines. It all matched, perfectly, corroborated. One more critical piece. Locked securely into place. The gala approached, just days away. Marcus and Chloe remained blissfully, arrogantly, oblivious, still performing their roles as devoted, concerned relatives, managing my affairs for my own good. They even renewed their offer to escort me to the gala. "Just to make sure you're comfortable, Aunt Agnes, stay by your side," Marcus had said, oozing false solicitude. How very thoughtful. I declined, politely, but firmly. "Thank you, Marcus, dear Chloe. But that won't be necessary. Arthur, my lawyer, Mr. Pendleton, has kindly offered to accompany me this year. He's handling some estate matters Richard wanted finalized." That produced a flicker of surprise, perhaps slight suspicion, in Chloe's eyes, a quick calculating glance exchanged with Marcus, but they didn't push. Likely assumed Arthur was just helping with some minor probate issues, tax filings, harmless legal tidying. Underestimated him. Just as they underestimated me. The night of the gala arrived, the grand conservatory of the Botanical Gardens, transformed, sparkling lights, glittering gowns, tuxedos, the air thick with perfume and the subtle scent of thousands of exotic blooms, the city's horticultural elite, wealthy patrons, academics, socialites, local news crews covering the society event, all gathered. Marcus and Chloe were already there, holding court, mingling effortlessly, accepting murmured compliments on their selfless devotion to their ailing aunt, soaking up the sympathy, the admiration. Chloe wore a stunning new diamond necklace, emerald drops, ostentatious, expensive, a necklace I instantly recognized, from a high-end jewelry catalogue that had arrived addressed to me just weeks before. Intercepted, of course, a purchase undoubtedly made with a credit card. In my name, my anger didn't flare, it simmered, cold, deep, controlled, fueling my resolve. Arthur was by my side, a comforting, solid presence, his expression grimly determined. He carried a sturdy leather briefcase, containing copies of the key evidence. Ready, the awards ceremony concluded, polite applause, speeches, then the announcement. "And now we have a special presentation from one of our most esteemed members, Ms. Agnes Holloway." I walked towards the podium, slowly, deliberately, using an elegant antique cane, Richard's father's, one I didn't strictly need anymore, but it completed the picture, the final act of the performance. A hush fell over the glittering assembly. People leaned forward, curious, expectant, anticipating a sentimental reflection on orchids, conservation, perhaps a touching tribute to Richard. I began softly, my voice initially quiet, perhaps a little frail. Thanking the society, expressing my lifelong passion for orchids, the lessons in patience, the appreciation for intricate beauty, the connection to my late husband. Then, as I reached the core of my message, my voice changed, it strengthened, deepened, filled with a sudden unexpected power, resonating through the silent hall, hard-edged, unwavering. "But tonight," I said, my eyes slowly scanning the room, deliberately finding and locking onto Marcus, then Chloe. Holding their gaze, "Tonight, I am not here solely to speak of the beauty of orchids. I am here to speak of predators." A confused murmur rippled through the crowd. Heads turned, puzzled expressions. "Predators," I continued, my voice gaining intensity, ringing with conviction, "who disguise themselves, brilliantly, who hide in plain sight, often within our own families, who use charm, feigned concern, and manufactured affection as camouflage, predators who prey on vulnerability, on trust, on grief, on loneliness, who systematically devour lives, finances, identities, piece by piece, all while smiling." Marcus and Chloe had frozen, their practiced social smiles dissolving, replaced by masks of dawning horror. They began shifting uncomfortably, exchanging frantic, panicked glances, realization hitting them like a physical blow. I am talking, my voice now clear, powerful, echoing slightly in the vast space, about my own nephew, Marcus Thorne, and his fiancée, Miss Chloe Davenport. Audible gasps swept the room, a wave of shocked silence, followed by whispers, murmurs. Every eye in the hall swung towards Marcus and Chloe, pinning them in a collective spotlight of disbelief and dawning outrage, their faces utterly exposed, Marcus pale, slack-jawed. Chloe's face contorted in a silent snarl of fury and fear. Trapped. For the past 18 months, I went on, my voice trembling now, not with weakness, but with controlled, righteous fury. These two individuals, standing amongst you tonight, have orchestrated and executed a ruthless campaign of systematic theft, elaborate fraud, identity theft, and calculated psychological torture against me, their own family. They methodically drained my life savings, my retirement funds, hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars, funneling it into their own accounts, their lavish lifestyle. They stole my identity, my name, my credit, committing financial crimes, leasing luxury cars, taking out loans, opening fraudulent accounts, attempting to frame me, implicate me in their own sordid dealings. They isolated me, controlled my communications, intercepted my mail, screened my calls, cutting me off from friends, from support, from the outside world. Arthur stepped forward calmly, placed his briefcase on the podium, opened it decisively. And worst of all, my voice cracked slightly, thick with the enormity of the violation, worst of all, they conspired with a hired caregiver, paid her, bribed her, to deliberately, secretly, alter my prescribed medication, to administer drugs intended to induce cognitive decline, confusion, memory loss, physical weakness. Their goal, my voice rose again, filled with chilling certainty, to have me declared legally incompetent, to seize complete control of all my assets, my home, my legacy, or perhaps, I paused, letting the implication hang heavy in the stunned silence, perhaps they were hopping for a faster, more permanent solution to the problem of Agnes Holloway. Maury gasps, sounds of outrage, angry murmurs directed towards the couple, people physically recoiling from them. They wanted my property, my life's work, my irreplaceable orchids, sold off, liquidated. They wanted me, erased, silenced, forgotten in an institution, or worse. Chloe made a sudden desperate move, as if to bolt, to flee the conservatory. Marcus, paralyzed, grabbed her arm, holding her there, trapped by 100 pairs of accusing eyes. But they made a critical error, I stated, my voice ringing with clarity, power, triumph. They underestimated me. They forgot, or perhaps never knew, that my mind, the mind they tried to poison, is not so easily broken. They forgot I see patterns, I uncover hidden truths, I break codes, and I gathered proof, hard, digital, irrefutable proof. On cue, as prearranged with the event's technical crew contacted discreetly by Arthur, the large screens flanking the podium, which had been displaying beautiful images of orchids, flickered, went dark, and then, illuminated with undeniable evidence, crystal-clear copies of bank statements, showing illicit transfers, forged power of attorney documents, with date discrepancies, screenshots of offshore account portals, in Marcus's name, funded from my accounts. Digital forensic reports, tracing IP addresses, device IDs, linking Marcus and Chloe directly to the fraudulent activities. Then the video, played silently, but with devastating impact. Brenda, at my kitchen counter, looking around furtively, swapping the pills, the indifference on her face starkly visible, followed by the audio recording, Brenda's tearful confession, played clearly over the hall's speaker system, her voice shaky but audible, detailing Marcus and Chloe's instructions, their threats, their payments, the specific drugs used, their coaching, their callous dismissal of my well-being. The room was utterly, deathly silent, stunned into immobility, the air crackling with tension, Shock, disgust, then the silence broke, not with whispers but with angry shouts, cries of shame, monsters, call the police, directed squarely at the now visibly crumbling Marcus and Chloe. And tonight, I concluded, my voice resonating with the absolute power of truth revealed, justice demanded, tonight, their calculated reign of terror ends. Arthur, I nodded to my lawyer. Arthur Pendleton, his face grim satisfaction, calmly took out his mobile phone, made a brief call, spoke a single prearranged phrase, "The package is ready for collection." Moments later, as if materializing from the shadows near the exits, several uniformed police officers entered the grand conservatory, moving swiftly, purposefully, directly towards a now sobbing, collapsing Marcus, and a suddenly hysterical, screaming Chloe, who tried futilely to pull away. The sudden flash of cameras, blindingly bright, reporters, sensing a major scandal, scrambling forward, microphones extended, shouting questions. "Marcus Thorne, Chloe Davenport, do you have any comment? What do you say to these allegations? Police, are they being arrested?" Chaos erupted, a maelstrom of flashing lights, shouting voices, shocked guests murmuring, pointing, moving away from the toxic couple, but for me, standing at the podium, in the absolute eye of the storm, there was only calm, a profound, cold, deeply satisfying calm. I watched, detached almost, as they were handcuffed, Mirandized, their faces streaked with tears, mascara running, their expensive clothes suddenly looking like cheap costumes. Their carefully constructed masks of charm and concern utterly shattered, revealing the ugly, grasping, desperate truth beneath. I watched them being led away, heads bowed, through the stunned, accusing crowd, towards a future they had unknowingly built for themselves, brick by treacherous brick. The fallout was immediate, spectacular, and brutally comprehensive. The story exploded, front-page news, lead story on local television, picked up by national outlets, detailed exposés in financial crime blogs, elder abuse advocacy networks shared it widely. The Orchid Society scandal, Marcus and Chloe, faced a veritable mountain of criminal charges, multiple counts of grand larceny, aggravated identity theft, conspiracy to commit fraud, wire fraud, computer fraud, felony elder abuse, reckless endangerment, even charges related to the illegal administration of prescription drugs. Brenda, true to her word, cooperated fully with the prosecution. Her testimony, backed by the video and her sworn statement, was damning, devastating. In exchange for her full cooperation, she received a significantly reduced sentence, probation, extensive community service. Her nursing assistant license permanently revoked, forever marked, but spared prison time. Marcus and Chloe's carefully cultivated social standing, obliterated overnight, vaporized, their professional reputations, ruined, any legitimate business contacts they had, vanished, disavowed them publicly, their financial assets, frozen by court order almost immediately, seized as proceeds of crime. What little legitimate money they might have possessed barely covered the retainer fees for their increasingly desperate defense lawyers. The glittering diamond and emerald necklace Chloe wore that night, confiscated right there at the gala, logged as evidence, Exhibit A, purchased with stolen funds, friends, former colleagues, even distant family members, scrambled to publicly distance themselves, issuing statements of shock and condemnation. They were utterly, comprehensively, irrevocably, ruined pariahs. The legal battle was complex, messy, protracted by defense motions and delays, but with the mountain of irrefutable evidence I had meticulously gathered, the video, the digital trail, the financial forensics, Brenda's testimony, the outcome was never truly in doubt. Long prison sentences for both Marcus and Chloe, commensurate with the severity and calculated cruelty of their crimes. Substantial restitution orders were issued by the court. Though Arthur realistically advised me I would likely never recover more than a fraction of the money they had stolen and squandered, it was simply gone, spent, hidden in untraceable ways, but the money had ceased to be the primary point, long ago. The point was accountability, truth, justice, public exposure, and reclaiming my life, my name, my narrative, my sanity, myself. Recovering financially has been a slow, ongoing process. Much was lost forever, a painful reality, but I still have my home, secure now, locks changed, advanced security system installed, digital firewalls strengthened, my beloved orchids are thriving under my renewed, focused care. The vandalized Lady Agnes, miraculously, put out a strong new basal growth a few months later. A poignant symbol of resilience, of life persisting, I established new. Much stricter financial controls, multiple layers of security, advisors vetted personally by Arthur, no single point of access, ever again. Trust must now be earned, rigorously. My mind remains sharp, perhaps even sharper than before, forged in adversity, honed by vigilance. The fog is long gone, replaced by crystal clarity, and a healthy dose of cynicism. The experience undeniably left scars, deep ones, a lingering sediment of distrust, a wariness of smiles that seem too quick, too charming, an awareness of the potential darkness lurking beneath familiar surfaces. But alongside the scars, there is also a profound, quiet, bedrock sense of strength. I faced the worst kind of betrayal imaginable, looked directly into an abyss of human greed and cruelty, aimed directly at me, and I did not break, I did not crumble, I fought back, using everything I had, every skill, every ounce of intellect, every drop of righteous fury, using the very mind they tried to poison, the analytical skills they dismissed as irrelevant, the quiet determination they mistook for weakness. I turned their own tactics, deception, manipulation, exposure, against them. I dragged their darkness into the harsh, unforgiving light for all the world to see. My greenhouse, my orchids, they are my sanctuary again, a place of peace, intricate beauty, patient growth, quiet order, but now they are also something more, a constant living reminder of resilience, of the hidden, unexpected strength that can reside within, waiting for the right, or perhaps the wrong, circumstances to be unleashed. Sometimes, late at night, sitting in the quiet solitude of my study, the only sound the gentle hum of the greenhouse fans circulating the night air, I take out Richard's little voice recorder, press play, and I listen, again, to his voice, his warning, his faith. Trust your instincts, Aggie, your mind. It's sharper than anyone knows. Don't ever let them diminish you. Fight back. He was right. Oh, Richard, you were so right. They didn't diminish me. In the end, they failed, spectacularly. They didn't extinguish my light. They inadvertently ignited a fire. They didn't erase me. They unleashed me. And I have never felt more alive, more grounded, more completely myself. My name is Agnes Holloway, and I survived, I endured, I fought back, and I prevailed. Wow, just take a moment, breathe, I know I need to. That was Agnes, sharing her incredible, harrowing, and ultimately triumphant story, in her own powerful words. The quiet orchid lover, the retired cryptographer, the grieving widow, pushed far beyond any reasonable limit, into a nightmare scenario and discovering within herself an astonishing capacity to push back, harder, smarter, fiercer. The level of calculation involved, on both sides, it's just staggering, their cold, methodical plan to dismantle her life, financially, psychologically, physically, and then her equally cold, methodical, strategically brilliant campaign to dismantle theirs, piece by devastating piece. It's breathtaking in its audacity and, frankly, chilling in its execution. The way she meticulously gathered evidence, the digital forensics, the hidden cameras, the psychological maneuvering to turn Brenda, the sheer patience it required, while pretending to be fadding away, and that final confrontation, orchestrating that public takedown at the Orchid Gala, it was pure theatre, brutal, devastatingly effective, maximum impact. Was her response harsh? Without a doubt, it was utterly destructive. Was it proportionate? Was it justified, given the depth of their betrayal, the attempt to steal not just her money, but her mind, her very self, That's a question worth pondering, isn't it? Destroying someone's finances is one thing, a terrible crime, but attempting to chemically induce dementia, to gaslight someone into thinking they are losing their sanity, to erase their identity for personal gain, that enters a realm of profound evil, a violation almost too dark to comprehend. Agnes didn't just want legal justice, restitution, prison time. She needed total reclamation, she needed public vindication, she needed the world to see the truth they tried so hard to bury, she needed them broken, exposed, powerless, just as they had tried to make her, and she achieved it. Absolutely. It really makes you think, doesn't it, about the nature of trust, especially within families, about the masks people wear, the hidden motivations, about the astonishing reservoirs of strength people can possess, hidden beneath quiet exteriors, and about what happens when righteous anger, honed by intelligence and fueled by profound violation, is forged into an unavoidable weapon. What are your thoughts on Agnes's story? On her response? Was it justified self-defense and reclamation? Did she go too far, or was it exactly what Marcus and Chloe deserved for their monstrous actions? Please, share your perspectives in the comments below. I genuinely want to read them. This story brings up so many complex feelings. Agnes's journey, it's a stark, powerful reminder. Never, ever underestimate anyone, especially those who seem quiet, gentle, unassuming, or frail. Sometimes the most formidable fire burns brightest, beneath the calmest, most placid surface, waiting for the wind to shift. If this story resonated with you, if you felt that surge of protective outrage for Agnes, and perhaps that undeniable thrill of vicarious vindication at the end, please consider subscribing to the channel, hitting that like button. It really helps more people find these important stories, and maybe share this video with someone who needs to hear about resilience. There are more stories like Agnes's out there, waiting to be told, stories of survival, of justice sought and sometimes served, often in the most unexpected and powerful ways, stories that remind us of the strength of the human spirit. Thank you so much for listening, for bearing witness, truly sharing these narratives, giving voice to survivors. It matters. Until next time, stay aware, stay vigilant, stay strong, and perhaps take a moment to tend to your own garden, whatever form that may take in your life. Nurture your own resilience. I'm Victoria. Take good care of yourselves and each other.